excited to showcase the diverse stories and perspectives of the incredible people that we work with through this culture series. We share these stories with the hope of opening a window into the lives of people from numerous backgrounds to create more of a sense of belonging within our community for those who may or may not share similar experiences. My name is Leonela Save. Join me as we learn about what resiliency and personal culture look like through the lens of our guest. Today, I am delighted to spotlight the story of Carolina Salter. Carolina, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me here.
No, welcome. We are very happy that you're here. Carolina, tell us a little bit about you. Where are you from? Tell us who you are.
Well, I was born in Spain, Barcelona, Spain, which in the northeast region of Spain, in Catalonia. So I am not only Spanish, I am Catalan too. And that's something that gives me a great pride. And I came to this country about 32 years ago. So at this point, I have lived here longer than I actually lived in Spain. But I am now a mom, I'm a grandma, and I am an interpreter. I'm a certified interpreter, both in legal and medical interpretation. And I've been working for Luna over 5 years now, but I have been in the world of interpretation for about 12.
Wow, Carolina, that's great. I like it when you say I'm Spanish, but I'm Catalonian, and that you take a lot of pride in being Catalonian. What does that mean? Is there a difference between not only being Spanish, but also Catalonian?
Definitely, we have a history that, Spain is not just one, well, it is a big country, but it is made up of different autonomous regions. And I'm from the Northeast, where we speak a different language. We actually, besides Spanish, that it's one of the official languages, we speak Catalan, which is a language that also comes from Latin, the same way as French or Italian. And, we have a history of being independent for many centuries, and then being part of Spain and trying to fight to leave Spain and be independent again. And we're just a proud community with lots of common things with Spain and lots of things that also make us unique.
Wow, that's very interesting. So I speak Spanish. I'm from Venezuela. Spanish is my native language. If you speak Catalan to me, am I going to be able to understand you?
If I speak slowly, you might understand. You will understand the gist of the things, but you probably won't understand in detail. So I would say it's like if you would try to listen to somebody speaking Portuguese.
Oh, okay. You can get certain words and the general idea, but not really follow up properly.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's very interesting. Carolina, how was it to live in Catalonia, but also be a part of Spain, culture-wise? I know you said language. Are there any other differences in culture that you can think of?
Well, we always take proud of being very, hard workers, entrepreneurs, visionaries. That's kind of like, we feel like, I don't know, I don't want to say, it might also sound like we kind of are the engine of Spain. And that's why sometimes it has felt like Spain has taken advantage of that. And that's why, at some points in our history, there has been this willingness of doing it on our own, which, for me, being far away, it's different than from a person that lives in there. I see it differently. But, I grew up at a time where there was a dictator in Spain. And Francisco Franco, I'm not sure if you have heard of him, but at that time, the big emphasis was to have a united Spain. So they tried to forbid people to speak the other languages that are spoken in Spain, like Catalan or Basque or Portuguese. So the schools were all in Spanish. So when I was born, even though my parents spoke Catalan among themselves, they decided that it would be a good idea for them to speak Spanish to me, because at school, everything was going to be in Spanish, and they wanted me to do well at school, obviously. So at my house, we had my parents speaking Catalan among them, and Spanish to me and my older sister. Now, when my other sisters were born, they decided that that was not a good idea, so they decided to speak Catalan. So my house was a mix of Spanish and Catalan constantly. And, you know, we would at the table, depending on where you would look at, depending on who was sitting there, you would speak Catalan and speak Spanish. So I think that kind of is the beginning of my formation to being an interpreter. It was just, you know, this facility of switching languages without even realizing that you are doing it.
Right. Was it hard for you? Or it came at the beginning, was it hard for you? And later it became more natural? Or how
it was natural. The only thing is at some point, you know, when this dictator passed away and Spain became a democracy, when I was a teenager, which you can imagine, it was an exciting time to be there because I just wanted freedom, you know, and it was the time to go on the streets and go and say, let's have freedom of the press. Let's have, you know, let everybody
freedom
say,
of speech and all that.
Yes, it was wonderful. And so I made a constant, you know, a decision that I needed to speak more Catalan. And I went to a school that offered Catalan too as a language. And I took it seriously. I learned better the grammar. There was a lot of words, kind of like, like the Spanglish. Well, it happened the same with the Catalan. You know, we had Catalan words that we were taking from Spanish and making it our own. And then you realize, oh no, that was not correct. So we changed them. So it was cool. And now I'm actually speaking Catalan with all my sisters, which it has taken many years to get to that point. But so things have changed.
Wait, Carolina, now I have to ask you, can you say a phrase in Catalan to test my own understanding of it, to test it if I can actually understand it or not? Let me hear you.
Leonela, explícame on ets.
I can't understand that. Did you
okay, Leonela, explícame. Okay, I'll say it in Spanish. Leonela, explícame de dónde eres.
Oh my God, I can't go to Catalonia without you. Definitely not. I will starve. I can't understand it. But I can tell that the pronunciation is very similar. The sounds are very similar, which makes sense.
Yes, and coming here, it's funny because my Spanish, my accent is different than most of the Spanish speakers in the US. So as first, when I came, we find a lot of people asking me, so what is that accent? Where is it from? And so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is kind of cool. So you are able to speak 3 languages, right?
Yes. As a teenager at school, I learned French. That was my foreign language. And so at some point, I was proficient in French. I don't know what happened to it. It's somewhere in there. But then I decided, when I went to college, that's when I started studying English. And then I met this American student that was there for a semester. And things
Tell us more.
Then I had to really decide to go ahead and study English. So I took it seriously from that moment.
You took it very seriously. So Carolina, what brought you to the United States? So you were in college. Did you finish college in Spain?
Yes, I did, as an optometrist, actually. Imagine that, which I don't know. That's part of a different Carolina. Carolina that I left there. But yeah, I met this American man. I already told you, I'll give you a little hint. And he actually went to Barcelona, and after finishing his school here in the States, decided to work in Barcelona. So when we started dating, I thought that that was our life. We were going to stay in Barcelona. But life just sometimes
Takes you
takes
to
you
different
places that
places.
you don't know. And so we decided, we got married in Barcelona, lived there for a year. And then we moved to the States. He went to law school in Bloomington, which was a wonderful place to start a life. It's very diverse, a good place to move when you don't know much about a country. And so he went to law school, and believe it or not, I worked when he went to school. I work at an optometry with an optometrist as an assistant. And afterwards, my husband joined the Navy. We moved through different states. We lived for a little bit in Iceland. And then we came to the United States. We finally settled in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
I was a stay-home mom until my youngest one went to kindergarten. Then I started working at the schools. And then one day, my husband, who was an attorney, said, there is such a need of interpreters.
Mm-hmm.
You should think about that. I thought about that, and I remember telling him, hey, that is like a dream job. And he said, just go for it, try it, And so I went, took the test, and here I am now in this chapter of my life.
Yeah, that is great. And then I wanna talk about the time when you first came here. I always ask this to people because I think it's very important. There are things that when you move to a different country, you always face certain challenge. You always face something that is very particular to your life and your background. And like you said, you knew many languages already. What were the challenges that you faced when you first arrived into the United States?
Well, when I came here, I already knew some English, but I knew the English from an academic point of view. I had not been in group settings speaking English, and it was hard. It was very hard. That was probably, you feel lonely because you cannot express yourself. That was the worst, not knowing the language and being so far away from everything that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, it was exciting. But the first few months were difficult, I have to tell you. But I found a job, and I don't know why I didn't get fired, because my English was not that fantastic, but somehow people loved me and they gave me a chance, and I was able to put my husband through law school, which it's fantastic.
Do you remember anything in particular when you arrived into this country? I remember being so shocked, by certain things that people did. It was kind of like a cultural shock for me at the beginning. Did you experience that too?
Oh, definitely, you have this vision of the United States through the movies. And,
Definitely.
like, for instance, I even brought you a picture of the first time I saw a school bus.
Okay, let's see it. Let's see it.
I had my husband stop, where we were driving. You need to stop. I need to take a picture of me in a school bus, because
yellow school bus.
That is so American, that I had to try peanut butter, and was like, oh, that's what's the big deal about the peanut butter? But there are things that you don't have.
Right.
And at the same time, there's a lot of misconceptions about the United States. Oh, the other thing that shocked me a lot when I came to this country were the churches. Coming from a Catholic country, all of a sudden, you're driving and there's Methodist, Baptist first, Baptist second, constantly. And I was like, what is this?
In every corner. I agree with you. And they all look like regular buildings. They don't look like a church.
To me, it was, you're Catholic, you're Protestant, or you're Jewish or Muslim. And that's my world, And now all of a sudden you're like, come on, what are all these differences? What is all these nuances, And so that was interesting. My husband is Baptist. So I remember, him telling me, you might be a little shocked when you go to church with me because the pastor speaks loud, so you have all these concepts about what am I going to find, and then you get used to it, and that's your new normal, and you enjoy it. And
was it hard for you to adapt to these new changes?
How
did you handle it with your husband as a family, and then later when you had kids? What would you say right now, after having lived here for so many years? How would you define your culture?
Well, my culture is a mixed. That's, well, to start with, when I met my husband, I met him speaking Spanish. His Spanish is top notch. So we spoke Spanish among us until our firstborn went to kindergarten. Because at that point, when he came home with English books and English words from school that somehow started coming into the house, and just, we don't know how the change happened, but all of a sudden we were speaking English. And and it is very difficult to keep up with the two languages when you don't have, somebody that doesn't understand the other.
Yes.
And so, the main reason was the schooling of the kids. So right now it's all English at home. And, I feel bad. I wish I would have been more, strong head and tried to keep the Spanish more alive, or the Catalan, but I didn't do Catalan because I thought, well, everybody in Barcelona understands Spanish. If they want to go to anywhere in another Spanish-speaking country, Spanish would be so much better for them to know. But, what happens now is they do know quite a bit of Spanish, but when we go there and we visit with the cousins, sometimes they get lost. Their Spanish is not that good and their Catalan is even worse. But, I have kept, going to Barcelona. I try to go almost once a year. It has not always been possible, but we go. I want my kids to know that culture. It's a culture, at least in my family, we are a very close family. And, the kids stay at home until they get married, or now they go to live with their partner. But, you're home and that's the norm. The kids don't just leave, go to college, and you don't see them again. They don't come back to your house. You're with your parents. So I still go, and I enjoy my family a lot.
There are many, I can identify with a lot of things you're saying, because in my country, the culture is very similar. Especially the family dynamic that you're describing is very, very similar. And I can only imagine, I don't have kids, but I can only imagine how hard it must be for you to live these experiences as part of your new culture, right? Have you kept any of those traditions that you had in Spain or Catalonia? And have you kept that in your family dynamic? Have you transmitted to your kids? Do you have any fond memories of those traditions that you can tell us more about?
Well, okay, so I was talking about this with my husband yesterday. When we came to this country, I wanted to celebrate, that was a big thing for me. I wanted to celebrate April 23rd, which is San Jordi or St. George Day. Because in Catalonia, instead of celebrating Valentine's Day, they celebrate in San Jordi. The tradition goes that the man gives the woman a rose, single rose, and the woman in exchange gives a book to the man.
Oh.
And those are, so on the street, you have these lovely places to buy books and roses. The tradition has changed a little bit, but that's the key. So I came to the States and I told Andrew, we're not going to celebrate Valentine's. We're just going to celebrate San Jordi forever and ever. But then one year, I forgot it was April 23rd. Nobody was reminding me that tomorrow to go and get a book.
Was he expecting it?
So then finally I said, okay, we're going and we are celebrating Valentine's Day, or I'm going to be cheated of the Dove Day. But, so we celebrated for a long time Los Reyes Magos, the three wise men.
Yeah.
That like the day to have gifts at home. But then it was not the same because the kids were in school that day. So even though, I made always a point, okay, tomorrow, mañana llegan los Reyes, but they're like, oh, okay.
Well, we won't be here when they arrive.
I have a lot of food. I cook a mix. My husband always comments, to my kids, you are so lucky that your mom, has this food culture, how she brings in a mixture of different foods. And
what is a meal that you cook for your kids that they love? That is traditional.
They love paella.
Paella. Oh, I love paella.
They love my paella. They love my fish with tomato sauce. We're not big in desserts over there. At least my family was not a big baker family. So all my desserts are American.
That's a perfect combination.
But, the Spanish omelette, or tortilla de patatas, pan con tomate, tomato with bread.
Tapas. Do you make tapas?
Pan con tomate is one of the tapas. Yeah.
You have to invite me to your house someday.
Yeah, I would love it.
I'll bring the American dessert.
Because, being from Barcelona, it's a coastal city. So this, seafood is basic. So, coming and you have to go and buy shrimp and the shrimp doesn't have heads or, it's just different. You have to adapt to the products in this country. And
right.
It's good.
That's true. And I think we've all been through that. I was telling another coworker that the first thing I did when I first came to the United States was look for a supermarket that had the ingredients to make my food for my country, So yeah. I completely understand you.
Even the meats look different, to try, like over there, they eat a lot of veal. And you don't find that here. Just the way the presentation of the grocery stores, everything is a little different and you get used to it. And then there was the moment when I went back to Barcelona and I had a little bit of culture shock getting there. Everything felt so small. The houses feel small, the cars feel small, the lanes on the streets. So that's also kind of interesting,
Yeah, definitely. And Carolina, what would you say is the thing that you admire the most about the U.S. culture?
It just gives you a sense of hope and dream. Go and dream and you can do it. And it's true, it just somehow it opens doors. And you have to put effort, but you don't feel like it's just only who you know that will take you there, that it's also what you put in. And
your
That's been,
talents.
to me, it's admirable. And I felt very welcome from the beginning here. And I was given a lot of opportunities, and I was glad that I was able to embrace them and take advantage. But yeah, I love this country too.
Definitely. I agree with you. It is truly a country where you can just develop any area that you feel like you want to develop. I truly agree with you. And now I'm going to ask you the same question, but for Spain or Catalonia. What is something that is representative of your culture? What is something that you admire about your culture?
Oh my goodness. What I admire, well,
Do you have
I
something
admire that
that you
they are
can show
fighters.
us? Or?
They also have their dreams and they don't give them up. Where Spain wants the one Spain and Catalan wants to be independent, and we get together somehow. We're still, for centuries and centuries. And, I brought you a flag.
Oh, let's see it. Let's see it. Is it the flag of Spain or Catalonia?
Okay, I brought you the Catalan flag. So when as I was growing up, this was, I don't know if you can see it, but it has the four red stripes, which, it was in one of the wars, one of the Barcelona counts went with his blood in a yellow shield and put his four fingers. And that has always been, Catalan, our Catalan flag. But then as time went by and this fight for independence has become stronger, they added a star. So this is not the Catalan flag that I grew up with, but now it's a flag that I also embrace. It has the flag with the star wanting to be independent. And as I told you, it's difficult for me since I'm not there, but most of the members of my family are very pro-independent.
Mm-hmm.
I had a brother-in-law that was very involved in politics and suffered to have his name clear. He had to go to jail for political reasons, and it's been a long battle. So things like that make me want to, I understand where they are and why they want an independence. I don't know. But at the same time, I feel more, I also feel Spanish. So it's a very difficult contradictions in my mind.
Oh, yeah. Your heart is divided.
Yeah, that happens to everybody that comes to also to another country. It's important to belong. I think that's, you belong here, but there is that little bit of longing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that you also want.
Definitely. That's true. Well, Carolina, and do you have something else that you want to share with us, maybe in your native language, something that is meaningful to you, an image, a poem, a quote, a memory of a saying?
I don't know. I brought you a picture of my family. That's what it's, well, this is the last picture I had of my family with my dad. So it has I have 4 sisters, and here are my parents, and here are my 2 grandkids. So I was lucky enough to be able to go to see my dad before he passed away, and he was able to see his grandkids. And
when was this picture taken? Do you remember?
Yeah, we took it in February. My dad turned 90, so we went to celebrate that. And so that was the last time I saw him. And so that's a very special picture for me, since I have, my 4 sisters and my parents and with my grandkids. So that was very special. And I don't know, there's a lot of music that I enjoy from Barcelona, from Catalonia, but I am not a very good singer anymore. I didn't think of bringing a poem or.
No, but I think you have opened the door for us to your life. I really love that picture that you just showed us and the flag. I never thought that there would be, Catalonia hold that history behind it of wanting to be independent and sharing but not sharing, combining the two cultures. And I have to tell you that I admire you so much. You have such a rich background, and you embrace those cultures. And I think that's what we have to transmit to our kids, right? So that we preserve who we are, but also adapt to the home that we live in.
Yes, so true.
Is there anything else you'd like to share? Maybe you can say goodbye to our audience in Spanish or Catalan.
Sure, I can do both. Okay, I'll start in Catalan. Ha sigut molt agradable estar amb tots vostès i fins una altra. Now I'll say in Spanish. And ha sido muy agradable estar con todos ustedes. Hasta la próxima.
Muchas gracias, Carolina.
I'll say it in English, I guess, too, right? Okay, it's been a pleasure to be here with all of you, and we'll be seeing each other soon.
Thank you so much, Carolina. Really appreciate your time with us today. And I would like to conclude this conversation by quoting Mahatma Gandhi. He once said, "A nation's culture resides in the hearts and in the soul of its people." Thank you for sharing your personal culture with us. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.